Welcome to the Game of Life podcast, where we bring you inspiring softball stories, insightful tips from coaches and players, and explore how the game transcends its boundaries to become a metaphor for life. Whether you're a sports enthusiast, a casual fan, or someone just looking for inspiration, you're in for a treat. We'll unravel the tales that go beyond the scoreboard. Discover how perseverance and hard work on the field translates into resilience in your daily challenges. Learn about teamwork, leadership, and the unwavering spirit that fuels success, not just in sports, but in the game of life. Allie Richmond.
Paul Richmond, what up?
How are you? How's your week been?
It's been going good. Lots of softball, lots of work. Nice weather here. It's been like 95, so can't complain too much.
And you're right into a new season of travel ball, right?
Yeah, as is everyone. Yeah, so getting used to that, and it's been really fun so far.
It's so funny, like all my contacts, including you, I'm I'm helping the high school golf team out, so I'm in golf mode, but
Yeah,
everybody else is in like new team travel softball mode, and that's
yeah,
fun. I mean, it's a fun time, especially, I mean, you have people that, you stay with your team because you guys are working towards something, or you moved up, or you change teams based on a situation.
Mhm.
It's really a fun time of year. We called it crazy season a few
Silly
episodes back.
season. I was gonna say silly season.
Silly season, but it's really a fun time of year.
Yeah, agreed.
So I
Agreed.
I don't I don't normally do this. I usually wait till we talk and then I have the name of the podcast. But tonight I'm gonna start with the title before we talk, and I'm gonna call it a means to an end.
Okay.
So what's that mean to you?
A means to an end. I think, right, you kind of just take the outcome of something and dial it back and think about what you gained along the way or through the process. So I'm assuming we're talking about maybe athletics and in life, right? You are working your whole life for 15 years, playing the sport you love, and all of a sudden one day it's over. But when you look back, that's what the means are, right? And you're not at the end, but you're at the end of your athletic career. And I think it's so much more than people see or people realize when you're in it. I mean, I remember the last year of my college career, I made a post and it was like 10 things that I am going to carry with me throughout the rest of my life that I learned in the past 15 years. And it was really bittersweet writing, but like still to this day, I will go back and read that list and be like, dang, like I'm not doing number four well right now. Or, oh, number nine's good, but number 10, like not going well. And I think it's just being able to keep that perspective throughout your athletic journey and having people who help you with that to say, hey, like this is bigger than you. It's bigger than your outcome. It's leading you to literally the person that you're going to be for the rest of your life. Because I think sometimes something that's scary, if you think about it the wrong way, is let's say this is your life on a timeline, right? This big, long thing. Your softball career is probably that much of it. And so far, it seems like more because it's been 80% of my life so far. But that number is going to keep getting smaller and smaller and smaller because I'm going to live more years not being an athlete. And I think if you have the right perspective, that shouldn't scare you. But you have to be able to see the means to the end. So I hope that answered your question.
You nailed it because we get so caught up in actually playing the game and this team or that team or my stats or where I want to go. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Just like enjoy the process and do it. I help coach varsity golf,
Yep.
and I was talking to a couple kids today, and I was telling them some stories about when I played. They're like, "Oh, you played golf?" And I'm like, "Did I play golf?" Like
Yeah.
it it was my like to every travel softball person out there,
Mhm.
like that was me in the golf world. We just didn't travel. Like I played 360 days a year and I joke because I'm in the Northeast but I was hitting balls and nets and getting lessons and
Hmm.
and all of a sudden, like 30 years later, 40 years later, nobody even knows my story. So
Yeah.
a means to an end means, do you take the lessons you learn, the disciplines you learn, the skill sets you learn, and do you transfer them to other things in your life? And that's the whole point.
Well, it's funny you say that because I've had kind of the same feels a little bit since graduating. I mean, you play your whole life, play D1, and I move out here and people say like, "Oh, tell me about yourself." And that's just one little bullet of your life. Like, "Oh, I played D1 softball." And I've had people say like, "Oh, like the slow pitch." I'm like, "No." Not really. So it's just you are truly in a bubble when it comes to athletics and how deep you dive into it. And I think, yeah, like you said, it's just taking it and letting it turn you into a better person. And we talk about adversity a lot on this podcast and how to overcome it. I think we can get into maybe the 10 things I wrote if we want to later because I still look at them. But one of them was like, don't hide from failure, lean into it because that is how you're going to find a means to an end. Imagine if you went through 15 years of your life and everything was just easy peasy and then you get to the end and all of a sudden it hits you like a brick, right? You're not going to have the tools to cope with it.
It's amazing. I look at what you wrote, the 10 things, because it was amazing. Because when we're going through the bubble, and as a parent, you're right in the bubble with your child.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
nothing else matters. And when you wrote that, and like, wow, we didn't even
Hmm.
realize all that was happening.
I know.
Do
And it's
you,
crazy because I can look at that list and say, like, I can read number three and be like, I remember the time that, like, I really learned that, truthfully. Or number four, I remember the times that that sucked. But you know what? It happened for a reason because XYZ happened in the future.
it's really crazy.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
did, did you track those 10 things as you were playing, or is it something you reflected on when you were done?
Reflected on for sure. But I'm gonna pull it up just because I want to talk about something.
I can add the link in the show notes too. That would be
Yeah.
cool.
Um, and it's funny because when I went to write this, it literally took me like 5 minutes to write it. And I look back now and I'm like, what was I on? Like that I just was so like I just spit everything that I learned in 15 years out onto a page. And yeah, I mean, I think a few like number six, I think about it a lot. It says prioritize relationships no matter how busy you get. I think that's something in college that I tried really hard to do. And I think especially in college or playing sports anymore, right? You're gonna have people in your life who you fight for to be in your life, right? You're not just gonna run into them in the locker room anymore. You're not gonna be there for everything that's going on in your life. If you want them in your life, you have to actively be in it. And same thing for other people, right? If they want in theirs, they should, right, reach out every so often. So I think that's a big one too.
You take a lot for granted because you build this trust and really deep relationships with your teammates, but it's because you also see each other every day.
Yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, I
And
think, yeah, no, go ahead.
and when you leave, like how out of your bubble, how deep are those relationships? Like if you don't talk to people anymore, they probably weren't that deep.
Right, exactly. I think another one I'm looking at now too is anyone, no matter their role, has the potential to be a leader. And I think that's one that especially goes outside of bounds of sports. I mean, you start your career early on, you're going to be the youngest person in a room. Don't be afraid to speak up, right? You still have value. You're a new coach, right? Like, be confident. Just knowing that whatever room you step into, if you go into it with the right mindset, your value add. If you go into it with the right mindset and the want to learn.
What are some of the other ones?
Um, can't always control what happens to us, but we can always control how we respond to it. That one's easier said than done.
Yeah, but that one, I mean, even in my like, I mean, your mom and I opened a new business recently, and like we were 2 weeks late opening. There were things happening, but we couldn't control that. But all
Yeah,
we can do is control what we were doing. But
yeah,
that's a life lesson out. I mean, unfortunately, a lot of people don't even think of that when it comes to sports, but it's so
right.
much deeper in sports. If you can't control that in sports, you really won't control that in your life.
Right. I mean, I have to check myself a lot. For example, if I wake up and I go to make breakfast. I'm just using an example, or I wake up and I go to make breakfast and I forgot that I'm almost out of one of the things that I need, right? Oh my God, my whole day's ruined because my breakfast routine's thrown off. Or, oh my goodness, I had a lot of events in my life recently that just kind of just came out of nowhere. Very frustrating. But I think always having the mindset too, like everything happens for a reason, move on from it. So one thing I try really, really hard to do, and it's tough, is like, okay, if something happens to me that wasn't my plan, what am I being protected from? So what I mean by that is, for example, this is a big one. I'm driving, I'm late somewhere, I really want to get there. Super slow car pulls in front of me. Now I get stuck at a red light, XYZ, things happen. It's like, okay, well, maybe if I sped through that light, somebody would have hit me at the next one or something. Like just trying to have that mindset in your life is, I think, really, really beneficial. And that goes for softball too. Like, oh my God, it's pouring rain. Maybe if I went out to practice today, I would have got hurt. Maybe you can apply that to all facets of your life, I think. But I find it easier to go through things like that than just saying, why is this happening to me? Why me? I think that's kind of a dangerous mindset to have.
Well, it is. We seem to put a timeline on everything. So if you get stuck at the red light, or if you're not playing your freshman year, or a car pulls out in front of you, we think like it's just changed our timeline. But, well, two things. Maybe it's changed it for a good reason, right?
Yeah,
But what's the timeline? Like there really is no timeline. You just try to do your best every day and stack good days, and
yeah,
then the timeline takes care of itself.
exactly. Yeah, and I think that leads into another good one that I wrote is work hard to be present, enjoy every moment, and be where your feet are. um, because I think it's really easy, especially as an athlete, when you're always setting new goals, just always thinking about the next thing, the next thing, the next thing, where it's really important sometimes to just appreciate where you are and how far you've come. I think is really important. For example, right, I know a lot of girls out there, and for me, like I dreamed of playing D1 softball, and some days I'd be having a bad day and I'd walk out to the field and I'm like, oh, but then I'd kind of just look around and be like, this is so cool. Like this was my dream when I was 10 years old and I'm doing it. So what right do I have not to be grateful right now? And it's never that easy and I'm making it sound black and white, but truly it's hard to be upset when you're practicing gratitude. And I think that can go for a lot of other aspects of your life as well.
That one hits home to me because you say that to me a lot. Like I'll complain about school ball or something I'm doing or something I can't control, and you'll just send me that text, know where your feet are.
Yeah.
Okay. And like no pun intended, when you know where your feet are, it just grounds you.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it really does.
I know.
Like you're just enjoy the present moment and go from
And
there and build and stack those things.
and a big one I see in life is, oh, I can't wait for Friday. I can't wait for the weekend. I can't wait for my next vacation. You're like wishing time away constantly instead of, all right, what can I do to make today good? Be where my feet are, right? Physically cannot make the time move faster. That's one thing nobody can do. If anyone figures that out, let me know. But you can't make the time move faster. So you might as well be where your feet are because the future, thinking about future thoughts is where anxiety happens, which is really easy to do. So I think if you find yourself someone who's like, oh my gosh, I can't wait for Friday, I can't wait for Saturday, I find that then when it gets to Sunday, you're sad because it's something ended, right? Where you always said Monday's your favorite day because you get to do it all over again. That's what I remember you always said that growing up. We would all, my sister and I, he was like, oh, we have to go to school. And my dad's like, this is my favorite day of the week. And we're younger, like, shut up, dad. But,
No, it
but
really
yeah,
is because I have the whole week ahead of me, like a
yeah,
brand new opportunity.
yeah,
I
yeah.
heard I heard a long time ago, the future makes you anxious if you
Hmm.
think about it all the time, which you just said.
Yeah,
The past can depress you because you're
yeah,
always thinking about what if, what if, what if. But the present, knowing where your feet are, the present is called the present because it's a gift.
yeah. I like that.
Yeah, so that's why you stay there. And it doesn't mean you and me, we know we've been through a lot. It's not about being a bobblehead and all happy and think, "Oh, well, at least I'm alive today." No, that's not how you feel when things are going wrong.
Hmm.
But you're always going to go through you've survived every bad moment. You'll keep surviving bad moments, and that you actually can learn. And that's why I go back to the beginning of the episode where I say a means to an end. Like if you take every situation in your life and know you're going to learn from it, it's a means to the end. And
Yeah,
I mean, the end is death. I mean, I'm not trying to get too deep here, but a
yeah,
means to an end. So just take the means of every present situation and keep learning from it. Because at some point, yeah, it just doesn't happen anymore. And I think we don't think about that, especially when you're growing up playing softball.
yeah. And I think going back to the bobblehead piece, I think the number one way, at least how I view leadership in my life, for people that kind of attract me, or I kind of attract to, are how do you handle when crap hits the fan? Because everyone can talk about this, but when you're in it and I watch somebody go through something with grace and with positivity and with gratitude, I'm like, wow, I want to be like that. And I think that's just how in life you attract people into your circle who appreciate how you do that. And I think it can look a lot of different ways, but I think the number one thing is when something happens to somebody, do they complain about it for 24 hours? They're just like, you know what? Let's find a solution. Like I can complain for 5 minutes because that's normal. But then it's how do I find a solution? Because me sitting here venting to you, making you miserable and be miserable for the next 48 hours isn't going to be really helpful.
Well, I don't want to give props to your older sister, but what does she always say?
I know,
We've
yeah.
talked about it 3 times,
Yeah,
but that's what you were just saying. Do you want
yeah.
sympathy or do you want solutions, right?
Exactly.
And
Yeah,
at the end of the day, solutions are what make you better.
yeah, exactly. Trying to think of one more. Maybe we should do some episodes that focus on some of these things. It might
I've
be
been
good.
writing them all down. I
Yeah.
mean,
Um, Number three, we should 100% do an episode on this one. Helping others is the way we help ourselves. If you want to spin with that one and say what it means to you.
so the happiest I usually am in life is at the end of the day when I've emptied my cup helping other people.
Hmm.
I'll come home exhausted at night. I'm like, all right, well, I helped this person with an internship at school. I helped this girl with their swing. I help, this time of year, I'm helping said golfer with their golf swing. And I feel like I put no times toward myself. But at the end of the night, I'm just like satisfied when I sit and reflect because I've helped
Yeah.
other people get better. And when you help other people get better, you feel better, period.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's why I love coaching. Like, I have a tough day and I go to coach and none of it matters anymore because I'm just surrounded by girls who want to get better. I'm surrounded by the sport I love and I'm having a good time. I think it just lifts you up. And I think, when you're going through tough things, lean on other people. That's okay. You're supposed to do that. And I think just keep involving yourself in things too.
Your girls on your team don't ask you about your workday?
No,
No, they
no.
really don't. Everybody's, I mean,
Sometimes they do. They're good kids. So they're like, how was your day? Yeah.
but everybody's going through stuff, right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
if you come I mean, literally with a full cup of just shit from your day, it's so cancerous. But if you come with an empty cup, just ready to help other people and do their thing, you really lead a happier life. I mean,
And I
there's
think,
got to
yeah,
be studies and statistics out there, but
right. And growing up in athletics, I feel like it teaches you how to flip that switch in your life. I feel like it's helped me even now to say, like, all right, the first half of my day, not what I was hoping for. But now I'm going to step across the line, right? Or I'm going to change to go work out, or I'm going to change to go coach. And I have the ability to change the trajectory of my day. And I think athletics does that because in high school or college, right, you might have a tough day at school and then you go to practice and it's just a refresh. Your mind is focused on your sport and your teammates, and you get to take a break from the rest of your life for 2 hours. And I think everybody, whether that's athletics or not, that's something that's really healthy to do and a good practice to have in your life of, I have stressors and being able to step outside of them is really helpful. And sometimes it was the other way around. Sometimes softball was the stressor some
right.
days, and then you found other things. So I think that's really important too.
Well, that's why it's important to be well balanced. Now, I have a question for you. What
Mhm.
age were you when you realized you couldn't play softball for the rest of your life?
Well, I feel like you and mom did a good job of reminding me that early on. I remember my mom had me take it was like a career questionnaire when I was, I think, in like sixth or seventh grade, I want to say. And basically, you answer all these questions and it pops up with careers that match your interests. And I did it. The number one thing that popped up was professional athlete. And I'm like, yes. And she was like, this is not the point of this. She's like, let's look at the rest of them. But it was just so funny. But to your point, I think, you realize it from an early age, but I think you seriously have to start thinking about it middle school, high school, because your grades are what is going to get you to the next level. Like, talk about a means to an end. Your academics are going to be that means for you. I think that's the biggest one, the means that they're going to be, because I know some people who had fun, let's just say, didn't really care up until sophomore, junior year of high school, and then said, oh crap, when they started applying for colleges, right? This isn't a good reflection of what I'm capable of. And that's true because freshman year, you're not really thinking about, oh, I want to get academic scholarship money. Or, if I really want to compete D1 and I'm in a coach's eyes, I'm neck and neck with a girl, right? Well, what if I have a 4.0? What if she's got a 3.0? Like, you're not necessarily thinking about that stuff when you're a freshman, but I think it's important to kind of start to have those conversations because I know, at least in New York, your high school transcript starts when you're a freshman in college. So you're setting yourself up for things that you don't even know are coming yet, right? How well your grades are you going to be in AP classes? Well, that means how many credits are going to transfer to college? What's your workload going to be in college? Are you going to get academic money? Are you going to have to take the SAT and ACT more than once? Like, it just, I think kids don't realize how early on it actually starts. And that's not a scare tactic, it's just a awareness, I think.
But we've said it a lot too. So let's say you push all the right buttons in high school, okay?
Right.
And you go to college. Freshman year in college, do they care about anything you've done in high school, academically or athletically?
No.
So if you
But
don't
yeah.
if you don't develop good habits, if it comes easy to you in high school, that's a red flag when you get to college. And it doesn't mean it won't come easy to you in college. There's
Right.
just people that's what happens to. But everybody feels like that's the finish line. And I know we've talked about that before, but if you truly think a means to an end, now you get to this university, college, whatever. It's time to use these 4 years to build friends and connections and memories and relationships to use for the rest of your life. But if you're so focused on softball, I just feel like it doesn't happen.
Yeah, and I mean, you always say every finish line is the start of a new race, is what
No,
you
I didn't
always
say
so
that. Little Wayne did, but
Lil
but
Wayne
I
did
I, I go with
originally. You relay that quite a bit, but I um I think what scares people sometimes too, and it's totally normal. Like I've been there too, is when you finish something and you're at a finish line, you're like, oh my gosh, I have to prove myself all over again, or I have to do this hard work all over again. Well, if you develop the tools like you should throughout that first race, once you get to the finish line, you're already equipped to start the next one. But if you're kind of just gliding through and then you get to the end, now it's like, oh my gosh, I don't feel prepared because I didn't train right, or I didn't, do that the right way, if that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense. So how do you develop that mindset
Which one?
to always know that once you finish a race, you need to look forward to the next race? Because
Ah,
I'm a big believer happiness comes from the journey. The people that are looking for happiness as a destination, they're never
mhm.
happy. But the people that are just looking in the journey, that's where the happiness comes from. So how do you develop that?
Well, I
Is
kind
there,
of equip that too in life. If you're someone who looks for the destination, right, kind of like I was talking about before, let's say every Friday, Saturday, you're excited. Like that's your destination. If you love the process, you have 7 days in a row to be excited. And I think that's just a much more fulfilling lifestyle to live. And I honestly think it takes a little practice with your mindset. You kind of start, I remember like you just kind of start speaking it into existence, little things. I think it's really important to find people who hold you accountable, um, and surround yourself with them, because that's actually another one of the things I wrote: surround yourself with people who help you grow. And I mean, think about it. If, let's say, a situation goes not the way we wanted it to, and I'm around six other people who complain, what am I probably going to do?
you're
Complain.
gonna complain?
But if
Yep.
if I'm around six people who are like, it's not that deep, whatever, let's go do something else, that's what I'm going to learn to do. So I think it truly starts with identifying what are the qualities of the closest people around you, and do you like them? Do you want to be like them? Because I think it's important to find people who you say, hey, I really like that about you, and I want to embody that more. I think it's important to find traits that you admire around people, or in people who are in your close circle.
Sorry, I'm writing that down. You said, what are the qualities of the closest people around you? And,
Yeah.
I use the cliche all the time, iron sharpens iron.
Yeah.
But you know what? I guess pillows create pillows too.
I mean, it's so true. Think about like when you surround yourself with people in college. I started using new lingo that my friends would use within a month. I would start saying stuff and I'm like, whoa, like what? Not bad stuff, but just their little like analogies or things that they would say or responses. And that's just your subconscious acting because you are surrounded by them, especially in college and all your high school sports, outside of school, at work. Like that is what's going to rub off on you, whether you know it or not. So that's something that's really powerful to just be able to identify and honestly make changes if be to your inner circle. I'm not saying that every person in your life you need to be like, I don't like that trait about you, get out, because that's not the case at all. But it's just important to have some people there who you can go to for advice and true advice, right? Because my pet peeve, I know I'm rambling a little bit, but if you're like in my circle and I call you and I tell you something I'm struggling with and you just go, yeah, that sucks. I already know that. Right, I want someone to talk through and like elevate my thoughts and twist
Right.
them around and throw them back at me and just talk through it. So I think that's a good quality of people in your circle too.
So the 10 things you were talking about,
Mhm.
when exactly did you write them, just to be clear?
Like a day after my career ended.
Yeah. So would it help for people to write things down while they're playing, like a journal, or is it just important to understand it's bigger than you while you play and then you can reflect afterwards? Because I feel like at the same time, you don't want to paralyze yourself and just be like, I think this was the lesson I should have learned today.
No, no, no. I don't think you need to write it down. I think it's just important to maybe think about it. I mean, I remember my sister and I think this was our mom's idea. After travel tournaments, we'd come home and we'd write about our trip. We'd write 2, 3 pages in our journal. And at the time, we're like, why are we doing this? This is terrible. Like, I'm tired. And Now we go back and it has nothing to do with the games we played. It's literally all the fun we had with our friends and all the trips that we went on as a family. So that's really cool to read. And I think that maybe is a good idea. Like I'll tell kids I work with sometimes, write down what you feel when you're hitting well. Write down what you feel. I don't care what it is. Be like, the
Right.
ball could be a ping pong ball. I would still launch it. My vision's so good. Like it can be anything you want because you're gonna struggle again. And reading your words is gonna be the most powerful thing that you could read. Not mine, not your dad's, not your mom's, not your coach's, yours. Because you knew at one point you could get there. So I think from that perspective, maybe a little bit of journaling could be good. Just slight thoughts on what you're feeling.
Wait. I gotta go back to something you said. My words didn't matter.
Oh no, I didn't say they don't
I'm joking.
I
I'm
just,
joking.
yeah.
No, I'm joking. All right. Well, again, I think if we summarize all this rambling we did, we started with a means to an end, and it's super important to just understand the game's bigger than you. The lessons are lifelong, and the adversity carries on to everything you do. Like
Mhm.
I was talking to end, I was talking to the golf team today, and I'm like, life's fairer than the game of golf. And they just look at me, because and the point I was trying to make was because you're so into it, and it's like, oh, I hit it here, I did this. Life
Mhm.
doesn't care and golf doesn't care. Just try your best and see what happens. Like that's the end game. Final
Yeah,
thought, and we're done.
I know. Yeah, I agree. I think this is a really important topic, and I think even more so than the journaling piece, watch how you respond to adversity. Like, truly hold yourself accountable for it because I was not perfect. I'm still not perfect growing up. But I had people who called me out on it, and I tried really hard to call myself out on it. I mean, there were times I'd hit with you and I'd act like a prima donna. And then we'd get home and I'd be like, Dad, I'm sorry. Like, you did not deserve that. And blah, blah, blah. And it wasn't all the time, don't get me wrong. But I think a lot
Right,
that
right,
happens to
right.
a lot of kids. And you'd say, hey, like, what can you do different next time? Right? How can we fix
Yep.
this? Or if you're at practice and you're struggling, right? Pick one of your teammates that's doing well and cheer them on. Helping others is the way we help ourselves. So just start to try to understand your tendencies, not just as a player, but those are also going to be your tendencies in life too. How you respond to not hitting well off the pitching machine or slicing your ball off the tee to the right. Like how you react in those situations is going to be how you react in life because things don't get easier. You just hopefully handle them better if you have the right tools. So.
100%.
Yeah, awesome
Well,
stuff.
thank you. And next week we'll have a guest,
Yep,
and hey, at the end of the day, everything you do should be a means to an end.
absolutely. Thanks to
All right.
everyone who's been listening and supporting us. We've been having a lot of fun, so appreciate it.
Absolutely. See you next week.
All right, bye.